Hey folks, we're here at West Brunswick High School. So many of you will recognize my guest. He is Coach Brett Hickman of the West Brunswick High School Trojans.
Coach, Jim, good to see you.
How you doing, Coach?
Another day, man. Just happy to be out here and see a little sunshine. We hadn't got a lot of that lately.
It is a nice day and a great day to have you here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the football season because we're here in the spring and it's football season.
Yeah, a little bit different from anything that I've ever gone through. You know, it kind of reminds you back in my college coaching days when you get done in November and then you strap the pads back on for 15 days of spring practice and from about February to April, except now the games count. So looking forward, and just it's been a long 16 months and we're excited to get back out here with our team.
Like no other. I want to talk about that in a minute, but let's go backwards. Let's talk about training and what do you do for your guys during the fall and the winter up until now?
Well, it's been so stop and start because of the COVID protocols and the way the NCHSAA, the High School Athletic Association, kind of divided this season in a sense that, you know, basketball is usually behind football.
Yeah, right.
So you have basketball behind football. Well, we didn't get our basketball kids this year because they were playing this winter. Or you would practice for a few days and then there might be another dead period because lacrosse season started or whatever. So you're getting 4 or 5 days in, then there's a stoppage. Then you're getting 4 or 5 days in, then there's a stoppage.
When you say 4 or 5 days, you're talking about training?
4 or 5 days of practice, training, conditioning, as the case may be.
Yeah.
Getting the kids as safely as we can inside in the weight room at this point. But there's been a lot of stop and go for certain, so we haven't been able to build the continuity and the consistency in our performance right now going into the first game this week. That we would like to, but everyone's in the same boat and just grateful to kind of have a chance to play.
The season is going to basically be March and April.
Yep.
Is that right?
That's the case. We'll open up, I know this is airing in March, but we will open up on February the 26th on Friday night at Ashley High School. And then we were scheduled to play 7 consecutive games against all of our 7 Mid-Eastern Conference opponents.
I'm jumping around on you, and I
Sure.
want to come back to that, but I want you to talk for just a moment about your season last year because it was a great season and a lot of folks will remember it.
Well, we had a really special senior class.
did.
I think most of the time high school football can be defined a lot of times by what kind of leadership you get in that 12th grade. And that was a great group that we got. We took the job in April of their sophomore year and we got a chance to coach them really for 48 months or really 18 months, 2 full calendar seasons. And those kids really bought into everything we were trying to accomplish on and off the field, and really had a great defensive football team. You led at various levels of the defense, and we were able to kind of ride that wave to a magical year, if you will. First 10-win season since 1997.
It was 10-2, is that
10
right?
and 2,
yeah, it was a great season.
You know, got to find a way to kind of get over that hump so we can win a championship, and we're back at it trying to do it again this year.
Sure. In terms of the COVID protocol, is your team healthy right now as you launch into the season?
Knock on wood, we're good. I mean, everyone.
Well, knock on metal, too.
Yeah, knock on metal. But it is, you try and do everything preventative that you can do, Jim, whether or not it's masking up, making sure that you don't spend as much time indoors as you typically would. We actually have a pod system of how long you get to go in the locker room. So a kid should be in there with no more than 15 people in our locker room at the same time. They get 10 minutes, get out, get dressed. We're not watching as much film together because, I mean, most of the studies are showing that a lot of the spread is happening in communal environments indoors with people without masks. So we're trying to be as cautious as we can, and it's taken away an element of some of the things that we do, like the meetings. But you know, I think it's better to just get out on the field, get your physical work done, and try and get as much mental work on the field as you can. And then, you know, what this has done educationally, just in terms of being a teacher, you know, most of your meetings in the classroom setting right now are virtual, whether or not it's in Zoom or Google Meet. So we've been able to offset some of the things of not being able to get in there and watch as much films with the kids right before practice, but we are able to do some things at night over the course of their laptops while they're in the safety of their own home. So we're writing a new book, as we like to say, every day. High school football coaches, high school administrators, you know, everywhere, every profession in the world is trying to figure out a new way to do things. And to our kids' credit, and I can't say enough about how positive they have remained at how many times we have to say, get your mask up, get your mask on, or, get out of the locker room, and those things. So, they're doing a great job. I think the thing that scares you most is that a lot of it's just out of your hands as a coach. We want to be hands-on. We want to control the controllables, but so much of it, if a mom gets it, it's got a chance to get to a kid, or if
You're
it
right.
breaks out in the school building, there's nothing really you can do about it.
But give me the other side of that, and talk about the fact that mentoring is so important for you and your assistants coach. You guys are molding these guys in the very literal sense.
Yeah, I mean,
You really
not
are.
to mention during the COVID protocols, I mean, people looked at leadership.
Yeah.
So you try and stay as positive as you can. Like I said, I mean, we had a degree of adversity the first year when Hurricane Florence hit us.
I remember, yeah.
And, making sure all your kids are safe and they've got food and their families have electricity, and what are we doing to keep them safe? It's a different kind of check on them and making sure they're doing right now. But the uncertainty of, are we going to be able to practice? Every phone call, what do you get? How you respond as the leader of the program is how they'll react. How your coaches respond is how the young men will react. And I couldn't be more pleased with what they're doing now. And, on that note, really over the course of 3 years, our administration here at West Brunswick has allowed me, as the head coach, to kind of handpick a football staff of bringing in guys that are teachers in the school building. And that's made all the difference in the world. I think when people watch us on Friday night, they see an extremely passionate and well-coached football team. And that's a product of the players and the assistant coaches.
But I read the Beacon every week.
Sure.
I read the won-loss record.
Yep.
I read a little bit of the summary about the game. But what I don't see is what you guys are doing, the mentoring that you're doing for these young men, turning them from young kids into young men, much more ready for the world.
Well, I think that's why you go into this profession. I think,
Absolutely.
It's not the money. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
Not to make light of teacher and coaches pay, but I learned pretty early in my life. I was so fortunate. I never really played for a bad coach. I thought most of my coaches that I had a chance to play for, obviously my father was a huge,
I
example.
want to make mention of him in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, he was a huge example for me, but even the men I worked for when I was an assistant coach, I always thought they saw coaching as a ministry and as a calling. And,
It is.
the fact that you can really, you're impressionable on these kids. And
Yeah.
they, I like when they get to see my little two boys running around here on the surface, if you
Yeah.
will, or
Right.
Coach Pardue, who brings his two little
We
girls
learn
out
by
here.
example, don't we?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean,
Yeah.
they see you as a dad, they see you as a husband. We have such an epidemic in this country right now of fatherless teens.
It's true.
So I think, the more and more you can mold being a good husband and a good father to them is as important as any power play that we draw up, or any play action pass, or
You
any
said it well.
any blitz scheme that
Said
we
it well.
have.
Hey, Coach, talk about this beautiful building behind us.
This is part of the bond referendum, I think, that passed in the year 2017, and North and South Brunswick were actually in phase 1, so they've actually moved into their building that's very similar to this one. This will be our football field house in the fall, and then in the spring it will be shared amongst two of our women's athletic programs, women's lacrosse and women's soccer. So we're excited that we get to share this gorgeous facility that we have. It's stacked, 25,000 square feet, over $1 million
just
worth.
beautiful.
I mean, it's going
Just
to be
beautiful.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
It'll be the nicest. Couple that with the turf field and the redone weight room. A head football coach couldn't smile any bigger than I'm smiling right now because of the facility upgrades. I mean, there's 2 locker rooms in there that'll hold 60 kids. There's a coach's suite, a state-of-the-art training room with the greatest equipment, and then the old gray lady over here on the other side of the field house has served us well for 25 years, but we don't have the storage space. And our program and our community, I mean, this is a microcosm of the growth of the community. That school building, when our family moved down here in 1994, was 780 students. Now we have 1,500.
We only have a minute, but I want to talk about community sports.
Sure.
I was talking before we went on the air about the fact that the community just supports your program incredibly well.
Yeah, it really is. I think some of it has been, people naturally want to pull for a winner.
Sure.
You know, I mean, so when you have success, people will get on the bandwagon. But when you look around our facility, you see all the local financial support we get from local businesses, from the Shallotte and the greater Shallotte area.
From the ground up.
Yeah, and the job that Jimmy Fletcher and our athletic administration does raising money is one thing, but then the people that show up to the ball games, they're there every Friday night.
Yeah.
And one thing that happened about 3 years ago, Rhonda Benton, you know, when she took over as principal, and she's since retired, she really kind of groundswelled this hashtag Trojan Pride campaign. You know, there's 22 of us in that school building right now that are West Brunswick alums. So I think, you know,
That's awesome.
it permeates and it creates an awesome culture of kind of one town, one team.
Yeah. I met your dad,
Sure.
Coach Yogi. I hope he's still doing well.
Yeah, he'll be out here practicing today.
So many of our viewers will remember him. Talk about your dad for just a second, then we'll wrap this up.
Well, you know, I think the greatest compliment you can give a father is to kind of enter in his profession. You know, a lot of the viewers here will recognize my brother Sam, who does the games here on ATMC.
We know Sam.
He and Will could not run far enough away from coaching because it's a tough profession, and it's very all-encompassing. Not just the grind. People see the product on Friday night in the practices, but they don't see the washing of the clothes, the lining of the practice fields, the parent meetings, the sanitation of the building, whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was kind of one of those guys who followed him around his whole life, and I think it's been really cool to see the impact that both he and my mom had as educators here, both in Robeson County when they were both in the St. Paul's school system, and then down here at West Brunswick and at Supply Elementary. You know, just two people who had a servant's heart. And, you know, I don't think you can tell the story of not just what my dad did in leading me into football, but the fact that they both had just an enormous impact on the personal faith that me and my brothers have, and our willingness to share and try and serve a community. With me, it's through athletics. With Sam, it's through church, and with my brother, it's through being a music minister. So everything is kind of come in circles, and we've tried to do the same things.
Coach, hang around with us for another
Sure.
20 years. How about that?
We'll see. I mean, we got to keep winning some games. They might fire us.
No. Our viewers will be so appreciative to hear this interview, and I thank you on behalf of all of them.
Yeah.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
And wishes for a great season.
Thank you.
Thanks. My guest is Jay Combs. Jay, welcome to our show.
Jim, you don't know how long I've wanted to do this, to be on TV for ATMC with somebody other than Sam Hickman.
Well,
this is an honor.
We can look at your shirt and know that you are a great friend of ATMC Television.
Indeed I am.
Yeah.
I love the job they do for this local community, and so blessed to be a small part of it.
And you've got a great story to tell here locally, but I want to probe you a little bit about your background, because you've got a great story back in Maryland where you spent more than a few years.
Yeah, I did. We came here in 2004, 2005, but had been a lifelong Marylander before that. And in 1988, I'm a working stiff.
Right, I'm going to jump ahead.
Sure.
You had a career in with some large tech companies.
I did.
But I want to talk more about your career, quote, quote, in sports.
Sure. Well, you know, like I said, I was a working stiff, and I stumbled into this opportunity to get involved with local high school sports through the local cable company where we lived at that time in Frederick, Maryland. And
so you had a tryout.
I had a tryout. I had an audition, and I think I passed because I did it for, well, all told, I've done it for like 32 years, but about 25 of them were affiliated with that cable company up in Frederick, Maryland. So I never in my whole entire life would I have ever dreamed that I would have gotten this opportunity. I always loved sports.
But you were doing something you love.
Well, yeah, and continue to love.
Right.
And if you're lucky enough to do something in life that you just have a passion for and you love, gosh, go for it. And I was fortunate enough to do that.
Were you an athlete yourself?
I was on the team, you know, I mean, my wife says, I always tell the story about my wife. My wife said that, you know, she was not an athlete. And I said, it's okay because you're always going to be my athlete supporter. And she didn't understand what I meant until a couple of her girlfriends finally explained, dum-dum, he just called you a jockstrap, right? And so, but yeah, I played basketball, baseball, I played football. I was the first quarterback in the history of Overly High School. Somebody had to do it. They were starting the program.
Yeah.
And I played 1 year of JUCO basketball. And had fun, but then decided it was time to settle down and
So a lot
go
of
to
your work
work.
with the cable company was in the Frederick, Maryland
Yes,
area.
yes, it was.
But you also expanded your scope of influence to Baltimore and surrounding areas.
We got around. The cable company that I worked for up in Frederick, now it's Comcast, but it morphed through different ownerships throughout the 20 years I was there. So yeah, we would, not unlike what we're trying to do here at ATMC, which is we're bringing you to local sports, but it's not necessarily always from Charlotte. We go to Leland, we go to Bowling Springs, we're in Wilmington, we're over in Columbus County. Well, it was the same thing up there. So we went into the various counties around the Frederick metropolitan area, into DC, some into Baltimore, and we were so lucky because, gosh, you look around and our kids in Frederick were on TV all the time, and their kids in Montgomery County or Carroll County were not. So we liked that.
So you had a paying job, but your other non-paying job was to be involved in sports broadcasting.
Well, it kind of worked out that way. I always had I couldn't give up my day job,
Sure.
right? But I also, I was a member of the adjunct faculty at Frederick Community College for 15
Oh,
years.
that's great.
And I started doing this TV stuff for local sports. And it finally got to the point where I sort of had to make a decision between remaining with the college part-time or continuing this part-time thing that became sort of full-time with cable. I love the sports. I love teaching. I love being associated with the college, but I chose to go the sports realm, if you will, and I'm still doing it.
And modesty may prevent you from saying it, but I don't mind saying it myself. You were a media person of the year in the Baltimore area. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm a member of the Baltimore Touchdown Club,
Okay.
and every year they honor different media people, different high school, the best high school players, and I got nominated one year for being the Baltimore Media Celebrity of the Year or something.
Yeah, you're in the big time, buddy.
Well, I was
You're in the
that
big
night.
time.
Yeah, I got the free dinner and the plaque that night, so that was pretty cool for a guy like me from the other side of the tracks.
We could talk about Maryland for so long, but we're here.
Yeah.
And ATMC is here.
Yeah.
So let's talk. You picked up here where you left off there.
I did.
In broadcasting.
I did, and it was just by blind luck. Not unlike my entry up in Maryland, I had a couple year hiatus as we were kind of getting settled here.
Mm-hmm.
And well, the first 5-7 years that we moved here, I would go back up every weekend to do games.
No kidding. Okay.
I did. And finally, we kind of broke that knot, if you will, and we stayed here, and I was kind of out of a sportscasting job for a couple years until I met a person that a lot of the folks watching will know, a guy by the name of Roger Cox.
Sure.
Roger Cox.
We remember Roger.
Absolutely. One of the most finest gentlemen I've ever met in my life,
Top flight.
and was taken from us all too soon. But anyway, I developed a friendship with Roger. Roger knew about my history. He said that, we're kind of looking at growing this aspect of what we're doing for local origination broadcasting. Would you like to be a part? And of course I said I'd be honored and thrilled, and brought me in for an audition, and I guess that's been, holy cow, I think Sam and I have been doing this maybe 5 years, and I did it a couple years
And
before
Sam
that.
is Sam Hickman.
Sam Hickman,
Whom our
yeah.
viewers will know.
Everybody knows Sam Hickman, and rightfully so.
And you guys have made quite a partnership, have you
Well,
not?
we have, it's like Mutt and Jeff. It's like, Dad and his son.
But it's
and interestingly, Jim, another parallel, that was kind of how it was for me when I started.
Mm-hmm.
I was the young guy.
Yeah.
And working with two guys at the time and then one that were, 25 years older than me. And they took me under their wing, and they mothered me, and they mentored me, and they helped me. And I try to do that with Sam, but Sam doesn't need a whole lot of help. He's pretty darn good
I
just
say
on
this
his own.
sincerely. For a local broadcast, you guys are awesome.
Well,
You're awesome.
listen, and I tell and thank you very much. Sam and I, that's the easiest part of the whole production.
Sure.
What really makes it work are the people behind the scenes,
Of
the
course.
camera people, the sound people,
Production
the
guys.
graphic, the production, post-production, and now, of course, we're doing things live,
Yeah,
okay,
right.
which is a whole new dynamic. I did live baseball up in Maryland for the Frederick Keys. That's a minor league affiliate of the Orioles. But we're actually doing games here on a Friday night at West Brunswick that a grandfather who's in Tucson, Arizona can watch.
Live.
They can watch on Facebook Live.
Yep.
And of course, if you're not in Tucson, Arizona, and you happen to live in Winding River, you can watch it on cable 910 or cable channel 3.
Sure.
Live. This is cool.
You guys travel too.
We do.
Not just to Wilmington, but to here and there.
We get up
Yeah.
and down the road a little bit. It's mostly in this footprint because this, the ATMC but the ATMC footprint's growing.
Sure it is.
So we're going into Columbus County. I hear
Correct.
talk of, maybe Pender County someday. Leland, although in Brunswick County, is a ways away. So yeah, we get around. They send us down to Myrtle Beach every now and then. So they let us out.
We talked before we went on the air about your broadcasting at New Hanover High.
Yeah.
Talk about that for just a second.
Well, there's spots that I had never had a chance to go to, either personally or from a broadcast perspective, and New Hanover's gym is really cool. It's almost like going to a theater.
It's history.
It is, and all kinds of great events have happened in that facility. I mean, Aaron's always quick to remind me that Dolly Parton performed there, but I think Michael Jordan probably played there. But just and it's so cool to sit around. It's again like theater seating in the balcony, the hardwood floor. It's old, but man, it's nice.
Yeah. Jay, we here in Brunswick County, we're here at the football stadium, of course, but
Yeah.
we all observe that the facilities are just excellent.
They're
Talk
superb.
about that, all around the county.
They're superb, and they're getting superber, if that's a word, right? Particularly in Brunswick County
Right.
because of I think you talked to Brett earlier, and he was talking about the money that the county came up with a couple of years ago. So when you go to South Brunswick High School or you go to North Brunswick High School, you're going to see top-notch facilities, not unlike what you're seeing here now at West Brunswick. Their center over here is a work in progress and supposed to be finished certainly this school year, and Brett and company will probably be moved in there by September. But yeah, it's fun. And when we go to these games, Friday Night Lights at South Brunswick, when they come crash, it's a big deal.
Really
and it's a
is.
big deal in Leland with that marching band that are so doggone good.
Right.
It's just good. It's just fun to be a part of.
It's really an all-American experience.
It is.
Yeah.
A little slice of Americana happens
Right.
during football season on
Yeah.
Friday nights here in Brunswick County.
Jay, let's take a brief break and we'll get back.
Sure.
Thanks.
All right.
Okay, I'm back with Jay Combs. Jay, what a career you've had.
No, it's kind of like it's almost like a made-up thing,
No, it's terrific. You should be proud. I'm going to jump around a little bit. Women's sports.
Yeah.
You guys have broadcast
We have.
women's sports as well.
We sure have,
talk
and,
about
and
that
really
for a
proud
second.
of that. Now, the ladies in the area would be a lot happier if we did more girls stuff.
course, sure.
And maybe one day we will be able to do that. But
Sure.
clearly we've been able to bring girls high school basketball the same way that we do boys high school basketball.
Sure.
And it's been great. We've seen, listen, there's a kid right now that's up in Wilmington at Ashley High School. Her name is Sanaya Rivers. Remember that name.
Okay.
In 3 years, you will be watching, maybe less, you'll be watching Sanaya Rivers play on ESPN for the University of South Carolina, which won the women's championship here 2 years ago.
Has she committed to USC?
She is committed
Okay.
to she broke my heart because Maryland was on her list, but she's going to South Carolina. Sanaya is probably as good a high school player in this area in Wilmington that I've ever seen and aware of. I asked Sam Hickman that question. He said, well, that'd be Jordan. No, it's not. Jordan got cut when
That's
he was
right.
in the 10th grade.
He did.
Rivers is the number 2 ranked guard in all the country and the number 3 overall recruit.
Wow.
So, girls, absolutely, and we're happy to be doing it. Can we figure out a way to do soccer and softball and lacrosse? It's on the drawing board. I know it's in the plans because
making,
there
yeah.
is so much interest in not only boys sports, but girls sports,
Absolutely.
and rightfully so.
Absolutely.
listen, guys that maybe aren't so much on the big time scale.
Sure.
But people going to remember looking at this field right behind me, Bubba McRae.
Uh-huh.
Bubba McRae was a low. You didn't want to have to tackle that guy.
Yeah.
And interesting here at West Brunswick, and interestingly enough, 2 years ago, or last year, I guess, another McRae, Javian McRae,
Right.
who was about as good an interior lineman as you could ever want to see play, played right here. He's at East Carolina right now, and I'm sure there's a bright, bright future ahead for Javian. So I had some guy, I was in Maryland, I was covering a local game where there was 2 recruits that everybody was after. One kid's name was Aaron Bain. One kid's name was George Lynch. That might be a name that people in the area know. George ended up going to the University of North Carolina, had a terrific collegiate career, and played in the NBA for 15 years. Aaron Bain ended up going to Villanova. It didn't play in the league, but had a good college career. The reason of interest the night I was there was the night that Raleigh Massimino was there, because he was recruiting them.
Our viewers will remember
They'll
him.
remember Raleigh, and he was recruiting both these kids. He ended up with Bain, and Lynch came down to North Carolina. And my life in covering sports has been littered with things like that. I wish I had a better memory to bring back all the names and the players and the faces. But here's the deal, Jim, with me. I get excited doing a game
Absolutely.
for a kid that might not ever play again. He may not even get it, or she may not even get into the game here. And it's like a Super Bowl for me.
Absolutely. And for him or
her.
her.
And for that person. And so
Yeah.
I always approach this that, you know what, when we do our games, we try to be objective as we can, but we always try to be fair, and we never try to be critical.
You and Sam both.
Exactly.
Both of
That's
you.
our path.
Yeah.
And look, kids are going to grow up. They're going to have to go to work. They're going to get hollered at the rest of their life by somebody. For that 30, 60, 90 minutes that we're doing their game, whether it be west, south, north, whatever,
You're working for them.
we are, and they ain't going to
Yeah.
get hollered at. And I think people, we hope people appreciate that. I've had people, again, this was in Maryland, only because the career was so long. I actually did a game in Maryland. The kid that was the quarterback for this high school team, I covered his father in high school. Now think about it, right? That's a
Absolutely.
long time.
Yeah.
I've had people who, they pull out these game tapes. Back in those days, it was tapes. They pull out game tapes, and on Christmas Day, the annual family tradition is to pop the game in between
Sure.
Linganore and Duval, the semifinal game in the 1989 championship.
Yeah.
And they watch them.
Yeah.
And it's there forever. And me and the guys that I did this with up north, and here with Sam, who is just a walking blessing.
Great young guy.
We
Yeah.
get to do that. We
Yeah.
got. Brett talked about the importance of being a positive role model on kids. Me and Hickman get to do that in a
right.
teeny tiny kind of way, and we're so lucky, we're so blessed. And the area, not so blessed to have to watch me and Sam. Very blessed that they have a company like ATMC who's willing to step out and bring it to them.
You're right.
You know, people around the country now, and I'm a victim of this. Victim is not the right word, that's too harsh. But last night my grandson in Northern Virginia had his first varsity football game. You can't go to the game, or I would have been
Right.
there, right? But you can watch it online on NFHS for $11 a month. I don't care about the $11 a month, it's my grandson.
Pretty good deal.
Here in ATMC, you don't have to do that.
That's right.
You can watch it on Friday Night Live. You can watch it the following week on Tele. And you can watch it, you know, in all different kinds of ways, and it doesn't cost you a dime. So we
Jay,
bring them a service.
Your enthusiasm speaks volumes, and for you and Sam, we thank you for all that you're doing for ATMC and for our community.
Well, it is us that thanks ATMC, and it's us that the community is kind enough not to like see us walking down the street and slug us. Now, I mean, I don't know. Maybe Sam's getting hit. I'm not sure.
It's a great story, and we really thank you for being with us. Thanks so much.
Happy for you to be thinking about us, and great to be with you today. You do a wonderful job too.
Thank you,
so
Jay.
you know, it all works together.
It does. It's fun.